Welcome back, mathematicians! In this quick lesson, we're going to learn how to compare integers, how to tell which numbers are bigger or smaller. We say greater or less than on the number line, and how to use the inequality symbols correctly. Let's dive in. Let's talk first about what inequality symbols are. There are 4 inequality symbols: less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. We're not going to be working with these two today because we're just comparing integers. Remember, integers are positive or negative numbers. So we're working with these two. And although I called this the less than and this the greater than, I actually tell my students that it doesn't really matter. You just want to pretend that these symbols are like an alligator, and the alligator always eats the bigger fish. So when we're talking about just comparing what's bigger and what's smaller, we can use less than and greater than. So we know that the alligator is going to eat the bigger monster in this case. So we're going to open the mouth towards the bigger creature. That makes this monster less than this monster because we're going to read the sentence left to right. What would happen if they were reversed? In this case, we've put the bigger monster on the left-hand side. That means the alligator is going to chomp this monster instead. Remember, we always read the sentence from left to right, so we would say, the pink monster is greater than the purple monster. What would happen if they're the same size, but we have different numbers? Now we're looking at value rather than size. This is 1 monster, but this is 3 monsters. Remember, the alligator is hungry, so he's always going to eat the higher value. So that's pretty easy when we're able to easily count whole numbers that are not positive and negative. Let's start working with the number line. On the number line, we can definitely tell which numbers are bigger when we're talking about positive numbers. So this is just like we have 1 monster and 5 monsters. The alligator is always going to eat the higher quantity. When we're on the number line, that means that the 5 is greater than the 1. And that's because it's further to the right of the number line. So the number line gets bigger as it goes to the right. This is really easy to tell when we have positive numbers because we're used to counting. But what happens when we start to have negative numbers? Now, most people realize that a negative number is definitely going to be smaller than a positive number. We've got -3 down here and +4 up here. We know that the number line gets bigger this way. But even if we didn't know that, we would almost always know to choose the positive number over the negative number. It gets a little bit trickier when we start talking about 0. Here's where we have -3, and here's where we have 0. We need to remember that 0 is not positive or negative, but 0 is greater than all negative numbers because the number line gets smaller as we go this way and bigger to the right. So the alligator is going to eat the bigger number, which in this case is 0. It starts to get a little more tricky when we have 2 negative numbers. When we're first glancing at this, we might instinctually think that -4 is bigger because it's a 4 and not a 2. But we have to remember that on the number line, -4 is here, -2 is here, and that the number line gets bigger as it goes to the right. That means that even though they are both negative, -2 is our bigger number, and so that's the number that our alligator is going to eat. I like to make the analogy with my students of owing money. Would you rather owe one of your parents $2 or $4? It would definitely be better to only owe them $2. Debt is a really good way to start to think about negative numbers as a way to keep it in your mind. Another way to think about negative numbers that I had a student explain to me once is like digging a hole. He liked to pretend that digging a hole was like a negative number. So if you dig down 2 feet, you've really got -2. If you were to build a mound 3 feet, you would have +3. Let's do one more. Just to make sure before we end that comparing 2 negative numbers is clear, we're going to do this one last example. Here's where -1 is on the number line. And here's -5 on the number line. Remember that numbers get bigger as they go to the right. That means that this is the bigger number. The alligator always eats the bigger fish. So we say -1 is greater than -5. I hope that helped clear some things up. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Good luck!